Introducing health and wellness advocate, veteran international real estate investment expert, author and speaker, Adiel Gorel.
Health tips, fitness tips, nutrition and well-being, world-class experts, all right here on my podcast, The Adiel Gorel Show. Hi everyone, it's a pleasure to be here with you again. Always great to learn new things from the wonderful people that we bring in to this show. Today we have Dr. Anna Marie Frank, and very excited. I know that we're going to learn a lot from her. Welcome to the show, Dr. Frank.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. So, there is a lot that you cover. You do a lot of things, and I have a lot of questions for you, but maybe we can start by you just giving us your path that led you to where you are.
Yeah, thank you. Well, ultimately, I struggled with my mental health since I was in high school, struggled with depression. But back in those days, we didn't call it depression. It was just something we kept silent within us. I was an athlete. I thought, going to college, that's what's going to fix me. That's what's going to make me happy. I was a D1 athlete, went through college, did my undergrad, still wasn't well with my mindset, my mental health. And then I thought, as long I'm gonna be better once I get my first job, start making some money, move across the country. I moved from Michigan to California and found myself in a job and was doing really well. You could check all the boxes, but I still wasn't well inside. And so I had good health insurance. So I thought, I'm just gonna go to a doctor. They're going to fix me. Spent about 15 minutes with this doctor. He put me on 3 mind-altering medications at 23 years old. I went on a downward spiral that lasted for a while. And then luckily I had this little light inside of me that said, you are the only person that can make you happy. You need to figure this out. So I set forth on a journey to find natural ways to ultimately rewire my mindset, rewire my biology, and help myself heal from the inside out. And so that was what ultimately, got me on this path, was my own struggle with my own mental health and chasing that carrot. We think we'll be happy when, and truly happiness lives within all of us right here in this moment.
So what did you do specifically? I mean, obviously the medications weren't something you really wanted to do. And so what happened? How did you bridge this gap?
Well, I started to think of, okay, if we can rewire computers, I could probably rewire my mind, because I thought something wasn't firing right. Something wasn't right in my mind. So I started to try to look at life through a lens of, what if everything was going good for me? Because I was looking at everything in life as if it was going bad, things that weren't happening for me. My boss was a jerk. I don't have enough money. The economy's bad. I was blaming everybody else. So first I started to own up for where I was at in my life. And I started to look at what was possible in my life and what was going good. Then I started to realize, I was exercising as if it was a punishment. I had to exercise because I ate this, or I had to exercise because, I didn't want to get fat. It wasn't, I'm exercising to enjoy how my body's moving. I wasn't exercising because this makes me feel good and it makes me happy and it creates endorphins. And so I stopped using exercise as the punishment. And then I really started to look at the nutrition and what I was eating. So I started to use food as fuel for my body. That was the eating the healthy, started to happen in my 30s. The exercise was happening in my 20s. And then, it wasn't until my late 30s that I started to really work on that mindset of mine. And, once I started to shift the way I was thinking about my life and the way I was speaking about my life, everything around me started to change. So it was a lot of little things that I was doing to essentially rewire how I was feeling inside.
Well, I mean, we talk about transforming our brain health, and you did mention that it starts with food and the way we eat. Do supplements come into play too? I mean, I know that your background has to do with some of the people who work on the brain, who do brain work. I know you certainly settled on certain supplements that might help. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so as I started to really research the brain and learn about different nutrients and raw materials that impact how your brain functions, I learned like things like tryptophan and vitamin B6 are two raw materials you need in your body to even begin to make serotonin. And so I started to supplement with those. I started to discover herbs and anti-inflammatories that are natural to this earth, not ibuprofen, but some different supplements, ashwagandha. And so I started to play with these supplements, and then I actually in 2020 started to formulate my own line of nutraceuticals, and that's where I came up with the Bright U was my first formula I formulated, and that was literally me taking 6 different bottles of product on my counter and bringing them all into one bottle. So I wasn't taking so many pills, which was great. And the Bright U is neuroprotective. It's anti-inflammatory. It has the curcumin in it, the resveratrol in it. These natural things that are so important. Our brain is only 20%, or our brain is only 3% of our body, but it utilizes up to 20 to 25% of all the raw materials that we use, that we ingest, all the oxygen we take in, the blood flow. And so when we're not getting the right nutrition, and a lot of people are not, even with eating healthy because of our food, supplementation can be really, really helpful for that. So our brain is an energy sucker, and we need to make sure that we're filling our body with the right things. So yes, supplementation has been a really great thing that I've used. I formulated Happy U, which was, again, taking 5-HTP, taking tryptophan, the B6, and these other raw materials to help with serotonin production, because what I realized is I was quote unquote depressed. And so the doctor was putting me on antidepressants, but yet none of these antidepressants were making me happy. So I thought, well, maybe I'll supplement with some things that are shown to help with serotonin.
Now, I have a general question for you. This is not about what you do, it's in general.
Okay.
So, a lot of people that are listening to us right now on the podcast or watching it are already under a certain regimen of how they eat, how they supplement. And so one of the things I always wonder when a doctor or a researcher comes up, let's start with the supplement. So here's this bottle. It was distilled from 6 different things. And that seems very convenient because now you take only 1 instead of 6. However, the regimen of one of our listeners may already include 4 of the 6 things that are in that. So now they either disrupt the regimen that they are on, subtract from the regimen to take this, or they take too much of 4 of those things. So in a way, maybe there is something to be said for the 6 bottles.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, some people, you have to find what works for you, and everybody is different. And so, I think just using a combination of minerals, which are really important, vitamins, very important, herbs, which are adaptogenics. Also, we use a lot of plant stem cells and chemotherapies at my center, which are amazing and how they work in the body. So I think it's not really, you are your own formulator. So you have to find what works for you. And a lot of people like myself can come out and say, yeah, I have this really great product. And the reason I have this great product is because I used it for myself and it worked for me. And so then I've used it with the clients over the years and it works great for them, but it may not be the right one for you. So I always encourage people to find what works for you and really listen to your body. And, more doesn't necessarily mean better. And what I mean by that, the cost of your nutraceutical doesn't necessarily mean that it's better. And so getting with a practitioner or somebody who understands how to read these labels, anyone can come into my office and they'll bring a whole bag of what they're taking, and I'll read what form of vitamins it is and what they're taking and say, yes, oh, this looks really good. I can also muscle response test them. Is their body testing positive towards this, or is it testing negative towards it? But ultimately, we have to be our own doctor first and foremost, because we know our bodies better than anyone else.
So you muscle test. I always found that in the hands of a skilled practitioner to be a very useful thing to do.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's very helpful. And for myself, so I can have somebody that I'm debating between like two plant stem cells, and I can't really decide. I go over with the client the difference between the two, and I ask them what they think, and they're like, oh, I can't decide either. And so then we just test the body. We ask the body, what does the body want? And the body tells us every time. And so it's a really fun and great tool to be able to use.
There's actually more and more, evidence that comes in the latest research. Of course, everybody knows about the microbiome and the second brain we have inside of us. But apparently, the more our microbiome is in harmony, or the way it should be, the more we are connected. And if we only listen, we are connected to ourselves in such a way that we become an expert in the sense that you're talking about. You just feel, you just almost sense. And some people dismiss it, say, oh, it's just a feeling. But those feelings could mean stuff.
Yes, your body knows. Our body remembers everything. Everything that's happened in your life from when you were in your mother's womb to what happened yesterday. Now, whether you can speak it and say it, that's a whole nother thing. But the body does remember, and the body can give us information. This is called biofeedback, biological feedback. So if your body starts to have acid reflux, that is your body's way of telling you that your pH balance in your gut is not right. That's an amazing mechanism. If you're getting a headache, this is an amazing mechanism to tell you that you may have, an imbalance with your electrolytes, your salt, or maybe you had a hormone shift. Right? So the body is constantly talking to us. I can look at somebody's tongue and it can tell me so much about somebody and what's going on within them. It's like the tip of the iceberg. I can look at someone's fingernails and it'll give us information. The challenge is, in this country, we're no longer trained on how to look at the body and listen to the body and really see what is the body trying to teach us and tell us. What we're taught now is we have to draw blood, we have to open the body up, we have to do a surgery, we have to do something extreme to find out what's going on. And more often than not, your body already knows and has already been trying to tell you. It's just we don't know how to put up our antenna and get that frequency to understand.
So true, so true. I mean, this is not something that relates directly to what you do or the things that you use, but sometimes, and I'm sure you too, you get out there on the web and you get bombarded with, we have just formulated the most unbelievable protein, collagen, this bar, and our bar is so good. I mean, all the bars in the world should close, sell no beer, we should just buy our bar because it's so amazing. So, you look at this bar and you remember another piece of advice that comes from all corners. Don't eat or don't use hyper processed foods. Well, that bar is hyper processed. I mean, they include the beautiful protein and the beautiful collagen, but it's very processed. So again, people forget what happened to veggies, to fruits, to certain proteins, depending on how you eat. But there's still the tendency to say this bar or this pill is going to be my savior, because this is a society that likes this kind of hey, I don't need to do anything. I just plop some things in my mouth and I'm done.
So that's a very dangerous approach, and that's called reductionism. And that is how our country is showing up in the world. In the Western world, it's all about looking for that one thing. The one thing that's going to make us the most money, the one thing that's going to fix our health, the one thing that's going to make us happy. And I'm here to tell you, if any person or any company is trying to sell you this one thing as if it's going to change and everything for you, it is a lie. It may be one stepping stone to improving your life, but we should not be putting all our eggs in one basket. And you should run the other way if somebody is saying, if I were to say, I'm the practitioner, everyone needs to come see me, just see me. Heck no, I have people come in and see me. And then I'm like, hey, I think you should go see this person as well. And, but that's it. Nutrition and health. The only reason it has gotten confusing is because of what's being advertised to us. And we're being told what to think versus being empowered to listen to our bodies and to think about, how am I feeling? Does this feel right to me? So it's the same thing with workouts, right? Do this one type of workout. It'll change everything. It's a stepping stone.
So I think the power of marketing, of course, is very strong, not just in the US, worldwide. But I have a theory as to one thing that I noticed when you can hear I speak with an accent. So decades ago, when I came to this country, I made an observation right away that everywhere you go and they give you water to drink, it's not really water, it's ice water.
Mm-hmm.
So being from another country, I was young and I would say, no, thank you, I'll just have water.
Right.
And they said, ice water coming up. I said, no, you don't understand. I just water, no ice. And it's almost like I started saying to my friends, I think in English, in the US at least, they don't have a word for water. They don't have a word for it. They call it by a different name. They call it ice water. And that's the word. In England, beer is at room temperature. But here, when somebody talks about beer, it's always ice cold. Mm-hmm. So I started thinking, what brought this on? And I think it may, and I want to hear what you think about this. Back in the day, we used to buy on the street, there was a cart with huge blocks of ice. We'd bring them to our house, and it'll help us cool some of the food. And then a company, I don't remember the name of the first one. I'm going to assume it was Frigid Air.
Okay.
Came up with a product called Frigid Air. And they really wanted to sell it. So the marketing machine went into overdrive, and cold water, ice cream, ice this, the ice queen, the ice king, that became the dream. So, I think it started there. This is only my theory. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I want to hear what you think. It remained, and to this day, ice water is the way to go. Many people from many countries come here. They say, no, I just want room temperature. I don't want ice floating in my water. What do you think about that theory?
I think it's probably not far from whatever the truth is in that. And I do think it's probably somebody created a way to make ice, and then we needed a reason to need ice, right? Just like Ford Automotive. Back in the day, we used to have trolleys in all towns and all cities. And you look around and there's a trolley in San Francisco, but where's the trolley that was in Bakersfield, California? Where's the trolley that was in Grand Rapids, Michigan? Where are all these trolleys? Oh, wait, because we all needed to get our own car. So yeah, that is the power of marketing. And I think you're right. And I didn't even realize, because I'm, born and raised in America. So ice water, everything was ice, until I started to study Chinese medicine. And then I also worked with this acupuncturist, and she was in her 80s, and she'd come up to me, and I'm wearing a short sleeve shirt right now. And, it's summertime here. And she'd be like, oh, no, you need to wear long sleeve. You need to wear long sleeve. You need to heat the body. And it's all about heating the body and keeping the body warm. So you would never drink cold water. It would be either warm tea or room temperature water. So I'm with you on that. It's something, but it's definitely something that was marketed towards us. And like sheep to slaughter. Here we go.
So you wrote a book, and nobody's in favor or nobody likes a bully. But I like that you wrote a book about don't be a bully to yourself. And that is quite intriguing. I think, the title is quite very catchy, and I'd like you, to talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. So, you know, we all have this voice inside our head that pushes us to go and be and to do your best. I've accomplished a lot in my life. I was an athlete, and, I'm definitely not average at all. However, this voice inside your head, when this voice tells you you're still not good enough, you still need to work harder, and it doesn't allow you to enjoy the successes that you're having, that's when it becomes a problem. And I had that problem ever since I was younger. Never good enough. Nobody likes me. Not smart enough. Like this voice would just, oh my gosh, it would just take over my mind. And once I started to really work through this voice, I think I was around 38 years old. It was over 10 years ago. I was like, if this was something that I was born with, like this voice inside of me that was so critical, or maybe it's because I was picked on and bullied and whatever reason this voice showed up in my life and started dominating everything I was doing, I needed to silence it. And so once I was figuring out ways to silence it, I'm like, I'm going to just write this down for my children. Because if my children ever struggle with this, at least here we go. Here's some knowledge from your old ma that might be able to help you. And I sent this, it was a Google document. I sent it to my sister, and she's like, oh my gosh, you need to make this into a book. And I'm like, really? Someone like me make it into a book? Like, I can't write a book. I'm like just an average person, right? Nope, not so average. And yes, I can write a book, and so can any of you out there. And so that's what I did. I turned it into a book, and it's just really a personal growth guide to remind all of us that we are unique and we are special in our own way, and that voice inside our head doesn't get to dictate our level of happiness and our level of success, and who you really are is the one witnessing that voice. But you can talk to counselors, you can talk to therapists and doctors, and they'll say, well, you just need to be happy, you just need to love yourself. Well, it's really hard to love yourself and be happy when you're not doing lovable, happy things for yourself. You're not thinking the thoughts. You're not moving your body. You're not eating the right food. You're not surrounding yourself with the right people. You're not doing things that bring you joy. So the book is just a reminder that we get to choose our life versus life just happening to us. And when we start choosing the right things, we can start, essentially getting get that happiness living at the forefront of our lives.
So I completely resonate with what you're saying. And I can bring it up to the highest level, of achievement. So we are now, the Olympics are on. The Olympics. So that's once every so many years, people are watching, and some of these people have dedicated their entire life to be an absolute elite, beyond world class, just absolutely. Okay, so these are the top of the top of the top. And two of the names, well, one of the names that just was in the news today is Simone Biles. Simone Biles, the gymnast. Well, she's an old gymnast now. She is a whopping
27.
When many of them are 14 and 16 and 17. And that usually, maybe because you're more pliable, whatever it is. She's And in the last Olympics, where she was poised to win all kinds of gold medals, she withdrew, citing psychological problems.
Yeah.
And the whole country was mad at her because we lost all these gold medals, and it's almost like she belongs to us. But that was part of the problem. When you operate at the highest level possible, absolutely at the top. In fact, she was singular. There was no one that could even be there. She was lonely at the top. Now, you being your own critic, per your book, and I'm sure, became a deafening noise. Oh, why does my second toe curl when I do the flip? You can get to infinity with kind of criticism and perfectionism. So you see her performing her routines still, and she's injured, by the way, still better than anyone else. But the better than anyone else at the very top of the heap is not perfect. She's not an AI driven robot who does everything perfect. That would be super boring. In fact, she almost falls and then she corrects it and she lands and it's not perfect. Okay, so imagine how many opportunities she has to be her own worst critic and bully. So that's why it got to be so bad, she had to stop. She had to stop, and it's a miracle that she got back. There's another star. His name is Caleb Dressel. He dominated in the last Olympics in swimming. And once again, he too retreated from the sport, and the same thing. The perfectionism, the self-bullying. So, I mean, it's not just somebody saying, I am an average person and I criticize myself for not being the top. No, these people are in their field. They're at the very top and they criticize. So, if we go to the field of money, somebody can say, oh my God, I'm worth so many millions. But look at this guy that I read, he's worth 100 million. The guy that's 100 million says, are you kidding? I'm not even a billionaire. They become a billionaire. It's like, look at Elon Musk. Come on. So Elon Musk probably said, oh my God, I could have been worth 300 instead of 200. It never ends.
Right.
So, I mean, we talk about stresses and things that affect our body, our physiology, our chemistry. This self-criticism is paramount. So I think your book is very much to the point.
Yeah. And here's the thing is every single thought we have, every word we speak carries a vibrational frequency that impacts our biochemical makeup. So when we're having a mental health challenge, like what Simone Biles was going through, this is why her physical body could not function. And it is the greatest probably lesson for her. And it is going to afford her some of the biggest strengths that we haven't even seen within her for going through this. And it may not show up, on the mat or on the beam, but it's going to show up in other areas of her life. And she will probably become so grateful for that experience. And I think that's the lens in which we get to choose to show up and view our lives, is we get to go back to the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we get to say, how do I want to choose to witness this and see? Because once we choose to shift the way we witness something from our past or see something from our past that maybe wasn't so great, and we get to shade it with a different color in a way that's going to perpetuate us forward and help lift us up as a human, this is the ultimate hack. And it comes from your mind. And so when you start doing things like that, it starts to physically make you feel better. You no longer feel like someone who's not smart. You no longer feel like somebody who isn't beautiful, who's rejected, who's a loser, who's all these things, because you're choosing to start to view yourself through a different lens. But we can't do that without the challenges. That's the other thing. Like I always used to be like, oh my gosh, God, why are you letting this happen to me? I'm so unlucky. Like, why is this happening to me again? And blah, 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 blah. And so it's like when you show up and you say, oh, why shouldn't this happen to me? Okay, this is happening to me for a reason, like just crazy little things that happen. My son's 14, got stuck at an airport all by himself across the country, calls me at 2:30 in the morning. Mom, they're closing the airport and with all the flight stuff, and I had nobody to pick him up. So I get to choose, do I freak out and freak my son out? Or do I say, okay, you know what? People sleep at airports all the time. You're going to be fine. Go to baggage claim. And even though inside I'm like, oh my gosh, right? It's like I get to choose the lens in which I'm witnessing this experience with my son. And so I think a lot of times we just let our emotions get the best of us. And those emotions, our brain is the strongest pharmacy on planet Earth. So we can choose what chemicals we want to fire and wire. And if you want to fire and wire fear, during something like that, that's scary and there's unknown, well, I mean, that's one way. Or you just go to gratitude and say, you're going to be fine. He's going to be okay. There's police officers there. There's security there. Everything's going to be fine. He'll be able to be picked up in a few hours. He's going to make it. 14, and this was at 2:30 in the morning.
That's
in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm in California.
Challenging.
It was just, that was a test. And so I'm like, okay, all right, he's fine. He's flying back tonight. He's going to be fine. So it's just, life's interesting and life's full of experiences, and we get to choose it.
But it's even not at that level. That's a heavy type of an experience, and being a mother and your son, I know how I would feel if one of my children were stuck in. But still, every day, just by living, we make many bad emotions. We walk around, we go up the stairs, we get in the car, we do this. And also we make hundreds of little decisions. I'm going to grab this, I'm not going to grab this. I'm going to drink this. Oh, it's too cold, I should have had. Every day we make, I don't want to count it, but many hundreds at least of moves and little decisions. Let's say we are an exceptional person, and 90% of those moves and decisions are really good and successful. We walked the right way, we ate the right, 10% failed. Mm-hmm. We stubbed our toe, we didn't bring the jacket when it was cold, we didn't do this. So, I mean, it's so easy to go to the 10%. Oh, I should have, if I this, mm-hmm. Those things, that's being a bully right there.
Yeah, it is. And we're supposed to have challenges every day. This is what helps us grow, right? So it's, do you choose to accept the challenges that are showing up, or do you choose to waste your energy and complain about them and get super stressed about them? I mean, it's interesting, but nobody ever taught me to have a choice in that. I had to learn that over time. And it's like, oh yeah, I get to choose how I want to view this, how I want to experience it. And I mean, that was a brand new concept to me once I figured that out, Well,
I'm going to get your book because, I mean, just the fact that you wrote it, just the fact that those thoughts went through your mind, plus, I've written a few books, the layer of creating a book, mm-hmm. meaning you now put your best into it. It goes through an editor. It goes through, you put so much work into it. I want to read it. I just want to read it and get the benefit of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about books is I once had a mentor say to me, like, why would you try to figure it all out on your own? Why don't you read somebody who's written it down for you? They've already done a lot of the legwork for you. I mean, so I love reading and read lots of books, and it's incredible. It's just incredible. It's like getting all the nuggets, you still got to live the life. You still got to make the mistakes and all that, but it is very helpful. That's for sure.
So how did you get to Bakersfield? How did you end up from Michigan to Bakersfield?
So I graduated university in 2005, and there weren't many jobs. And so I was looking to move to New York, Florida, or California. And so Bakersfield at, 22 years old, they offered me the most money. And I thought, I'll just go there. That'll make me happy. So I came out here. I was actually a teacher. That's how I started my career off, and did that for a while, and then got into corporate wellness and did that for a while, and then started to get my Doctor of Traditional Naturopathy, did my PhD, and started working with people, and found that I just loved to work with people, and started my own center. And ultimately, here I am 20 some years later.
Well, I am a little frustrated because some of the things that you have there, of course, we have them here, I mean, Marin County, just north of San Francisco. We
Yeah.
have all of those things. We have them. But I would have liked to try them over at your place because I get a good sense about. But let's talk about some of those machines and services. And let's start with a Theta.
The Theta chair, Theta pod, Theta
Yeah, the
experience.
pod. Can you talk about the pod a little bit? I'm just curious. I know I can find it locally too.
Yeah. So it's just this experience where it's almost forcing you in a meditative state. You're laying down. There's this eyeglass that you have on. Your eyes are closed. It's triggering your optic nerve. There's binaural beats going. We program the machine with some suggestion music, and you go into a deep relaxation. And a lot of people have a hard time meditating. And what this is almost like, I always say, this is kind of the opposite of a float tank, the opposite of meditation. It actually stimulates your brain so much that and your brain ends up like, forget it, I'm exhausted. And so you go in this deep meditative state. It's about 30 minutes, and then you come out of it and you're like, I feel like I just slept for like 3 hours. So it's really great. It's a great machine. So that's one of them. What other one would you like to know about?
Well, of course, the one that everybody has and talks about and does and goes to, but I want to talk about your sauna.
Oh, yes.
What kind of sauna is it?
So we have a medical grade full spectrum infrared sauna. So it has infrared far, mid, and near in it, which is a little bit different than just a far infrared sauna. I have an outdoor sauna. So some people come and have this whole outdoor experience where they go from the sauna to the cold plunge, sauna to the cold plunge. And this sauna, we have about 100 pounds of Himalayan salt in it. And it's a steam sauna, it's just an old school sauna, and you can put water over the the rocks, and it'll create steam. And so it's just like your old school sauna. It's great. It's a little bit different than the infrared sauna, but infrared saunas don't get as hot as like the outdoor old school sauna because your body absorbs infrared heat.
Well, there's a new door that opens up when we talk about it, because there is a camp that will, argue in favor of far infrared and only far infrared. There's a camp that says only near infrared.
And I say, be careful of both of those. Be careful of that. Find what works for you.
And then some people who have tried to build a sauna that incorporates both, one of them could suffer. One of them could not be as effective. Usually the near infrared is not as effective in a full spectrum sauna. So you want to talk about all of this a little bit?
Yeah, I think ultimately it comes down to finding what works for you. The infrared sauna, for a lot of our clients, they really like that one because it doesn't get as hot as the outdoor. Can get up to 165 degrees. The indoor, we're looking at 129 to 132. And the reason being is because infrared, your body actually absorbs that heat. So as the sauna is trying to go up in heat, your body's absorbing some of that heat. So it's doing more of the sweat that's coming out of the infrared sauna is going to be more of like a serum, more of a deep detoxification. Where the outdoor sauna, you're going to lose a lot more electrolytes, a lot more, you're going to sweat a lot more. So it's a little bit different. And so we have people that do both. It depends on their personal preference. We have some people that can't withstand high heat. So they're doing, the infrared, and they're coming in, and that low heat is good for them and they feel comfortable in there. And then we have people too that are more claustrophobic. So the outdoor sauna is a lot bigger, and it has a big glass. It's a barrel sauna. So it has a big glass window on it, and there's a glass window on the door, and they love that, So I think the key is to find what works for you and then do it. That's the other thing. People always ask, well, when should I take this vitamin? When should I take my probiotic? Well, when are you going to remember to take it? Right? There are some things that there's a time and a place, but if it's something you can do whenever, wherever, the key is to just do it. Whereas a lot of people, it's like analysis equals paralysis. And it's like, just give it a try. Find what works for you and go with it.
What other goodies do you have there that I don't remember?
So I'm going to tell you my most favorite thing to do with clients. And so I do a full body quantum intake. I can do this in person or remotely. I use biofeedback. I scan your brain. I scan your digestive system. I scan, are you deficient in any macro, micro minerals, amino acids, hormones? I mean, this is like the gamut. And I use that machine. That's one of the tools. And then I look at your tongue. I look at your fingernails. I have you send me photos of your face, or if you're in person, I see your face. And then we figure out what's going on with your foundations of health. I listen to how you're thinking about your life, how you're speaking about your life. So I'm listening to the words you're using, how the tone of your voice is coming off. And then I really look and figure out, okay, what can we do to support this person's foundations of health so they can live the most optimal life that they want to live? Because anyone that's struggling with dis-ease in the body, we can always go back to foundations of health and restore those. And a lot of times those symptoms or the things they're struggling with start to dissipate. But usually we go right to the issue that they think that they're having and say, oh, well, it's just my thyroid, or, oh, it's just my digestion. And then we just look and focus on that one thing, and we're missing a whole aspect of healing when we're only looking at one thing. And then I incorporate the energetics of the healing, which I believe that's actually the future of medicine is frequency is energy. Because if we go inside every single cell in the body until we can't go any further, the only thing that's left is energy. So to not address the energetics of the human body, I believe we miss a whole aspect of healing. So that's why a big portion of what we do here is also energy medicine and working on people's energy and frequencies. And we do that in a variety of ways, in person or remotely.
I find it so true. I mean, people forget so quickly, and even medical doctors could forget that we are a whole body interconnected by so many networks, whether the blood system, the nerve system, or whatever else. And they say, oh, the left side of the upper point in your shoulder joint is this. Let's work here. And by the way, the real funny stuff is, is the orthopedic stuff. The orthopedic stuff, somebody comes to a bodywork practitioner. I learned several forms of bodywork, and somebody comes and says, once again, it's my left shoulder right near the rotator. Now, as you may remember, we have a skeleton.
Yes. Yeah.
The skeleton is all connected. I could push here and your shoulder feels it and moves. And maybe if I push directly where it hurts, your body is going to clamp up because it's too much. But maybe from here, it's going to be gentle. I mean, people forget. And then doctors too want to quantify us into little cogs of a machine. And they would prefer if we were like a car. You take the carburetor, you replace the carburetor, and that's what they do in many cases. They replace. But I mean, it's true. We are one whole. And that's even before all the stuff we talked about, our thoughts, our, emotions. And so the more holistic you can be, I think the more useful it'll be.
Yes, absolutely. And one thing that I believe any physical ailment that we get or that develops in the body is due to an emotional blockage that's stored in your body, whether it's your own thing or something through lineage. And so when we talk about the emotions, that's actually another big aspect that is not even looked at. Like I think back when I went to that psychiatrist, he didn't ask me, he would ask me, do I want to hurt myself? Do you want to kill yourself? Do you want to hurt other people? He would ask me, all those horrifying questions. But he didn't ask me, what did you eat today? What good thought did you have today? Were you able to be outside today? When's the last time you gave someone a hug? When's the last time you set a goal and thought about the future you desire? Like, these are the questions that we should be asking. These are the things that we should be, inquiring about to our clients and to patients. And it's not being done, but, it's the other thing is that's not how these doctors are trained. Back in between 1900 and 1920, 1930 in this country, our whole medical system got a huge makeover due to the Flexner report and the Rockefellers and the Carnegies in this country. And it was for a reason. The petrochemical industry came out and they had these synthetic things that they could make or not nutraceuticals, but pharmaceuticals out of. And, follow the money. And so, this is why, number one, we should never make decisions on our health based out of fear. Number two, you should always ask why and keep asking questions. And number three, you get to figure out what works for you. Like, you get to choose the practitioners you work with. If it doesn't feel right to you, ask questions, find someone else, get a second opinion. It's amazing. I have so many experiences in my own life. We could do a whole other podcast on that, where, from 14 years old till about 30 years old, I had so many run-ins with the medical community that I kind of just went along with because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. So,
Well, I agree. I mean, the medical school curriculum has become more, here's a symptom, here's the drug, here's the symptom, here's the drug. This drug has a side effect, here's a drug for the side effect, but it has a side effect, so here's a drug for the side effect. Once again, I remember, I came here from somewhere else. I remember seeing the Hollywood movies. So, you see the life in the United States, people living in LA, New York, San Francisco. And I noticed that in many movies, when the person is in their bathroom or they open up the cabinet, you see all of these little translucent, orangish
medicine bottles
that contain drugs. And many people have 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. And part of the movie too, they're taking their drugs. And I said, what is this? I remember when I came here, and for a long time, I almost felt I'm a strange guy. I don't conform to life here. I don't take any of those, orangish boxes of pills. I mean, and there's another thing, by the way, that used to be very common. Now it's a lot less, which I think is great. You talked about we have challenges on a daily basis. How do we deal with them? If you look at movies, especially maybe up to 1980, from the past until now, every time there is an issue, my girlfriend left me. The next scene, they're in their hotel rooms, pouring a stiff drink, taking the drink. And if something really bad happened, they're at the bar, already drunk. So, I mean, those are messages that basically go in
on purpose.
By the way, I don't want to put down, MDs, the medical profession.
They're amazing.
They've come up with unbelievable stuff. They can.
Yes, hands down. Like, Western medicine is absolutely amazing, out of this world when it comes to surgery, saving people's lives. I mean, heck yes, we're killing it. We're doing a great job there. Where I think we're really not doing a good job is preventative care. I think we're not doing a job on, keeping people healthy. And so, the day that we can come together with Western, Eastern, Chinese medicine and really bring in, naturopaths, nutritionists, and have it be all one, I think that's the day that we're going to see a lot of success and start to change the health in this country. But, it's just unfortunate that, again, you just follow the money. I had a little girl in here the other day. She was 3 years old. She poops maybe TMI, but this is serious. She poops like once every 10 days. And her mom walked in, she had a bag of different medications from the doctor. And she's like, this is our last hope. We're not sure what to do. She's taken all this stuff, still not going. And I spent about 2 hours, is usually about my first session with someone. We went over all these things, did these little exercises with her, whatnot. I called her dad 3 days later. She pooped that night. She pooped the next day. And he was like, we're waiting for another one today. And sometimes I have to pinch myself. I'm like, is it really this easy? Like, what are we doing here when we're putting a 3-year-old on multiple medications to make her go poop? And they didn't even say, hey, maybe try some magnesium. I mean, she's had ultrasound. She's had like all of this poor little 3-year-old, so it's just why. It's every day I see people here and we work on their foundations of health and the things they've been struggling with for years, sometimes months, sometimes just weeks. Their symptoms and things go away, and it's just, it really, I feel like I want to scream it from the rooftops, like, what's happening? Like, why is this not, to me, this is like normal of like, well, yeah, try magnesium, or yeah, do this belly massage for her. Yeah, like do these different things, have some, blackberries each day, try some chia seeds, and let's do these things to get the things moving. But what I'm realizing is, what's, to me, this is like just second nature because it's what I do. It's people just don't know. They don't know. And so that's kind of frustrating about it. But, I guess that's why I'm called upon to do what I do.
One of the rays of light, if you will. I mean, now, insurance does pay for acupuncture now. Many doctors send people to an acupuncture practitioner. So, you're seeing a little bit of a melding, at least at a certain level, between certain, MDs and certain doctors. But I agree, the notion of nutrition, prevention, even walking outside. We had a big professor on this podcast. He's a brain specialist from Stanford and from Nippon University, the most decorated guy. Do you know what he likes to really talk about? Forest bathing.
Yeah,
So
I love
He
that.
does experiments. He actually measures all your vitals
Brainwaves.
after you walked in the forest and before. And he loves to talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's powerful. Earthing, grounding yourself, forest bathing. I mean, this is free. It's easy, and it will change what is going on within your biology within minutes. And it's crazy, but people they just don't, Sunshine, it's free.
So do your kids, I don't know if it's just, the one kid
I have two
kids,
14 and 12-year-old.
14 and 12. Actually, mine are not that far off, 22 and 20. And do they benefit from your wisdom, or being kids, they say, oh no, if my mom does it, I don't want anything to do with it.
I get a little bit of both. My kids will say, my friends think you're always so happy all the time. Like, you're the weird mom, like whatever. And I just giggle and I laugh. But, I know they pick up on what I'm doing. I don't really force anything on them. We make healthy decisions. And if my kids are going to go to a birthday party and eat cake and have pizza, they're going to do that. And I'm not going to tell them they can't. So there's a balance there. But leading by example is really what I can do, so I know that when they get older and they're making their decisions, that they're going to be able to make them through a lens of education, and, whatever they choose, they'll find their way. But yeah, I'm the crazy mom. I'm the happy mom. I'm the weird mom. I'm all those things. And, my daughter will say to me sometimes, why do you have to be so healthy? And I'm like, because I love it and I feel so good, and so that's all. But they'll find their way.
I actually was once in a relationship, and we took it seriously enough that we went to a couples therapy, and the therapist asked us each to say what we wish our partner would be like. One of her wishes was, I wish he wasn't so health conscious.
Yep. That can put some people off.
Now, if people want to benefit from what you do, I understand the saunas, the cold plunge, the theta pod, they're located physically in Bakersfield, California. Mm-hmm. But you said you work with people by Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell us a little more what people can do to benefit from all your stuff. You have a website. What is it?
Yeah, so I work with people remotely. They can do the quantum intake with me. It's 2 sessions that includes. I also do coaching. So I'll coach people remotely. I work with you for a minimum of 3 months. And, you can just go online and you can check all that out at happywholeyou.com. I just started my own personal Instagram page, and that is dr.a.gorel. Anna, ANNA.Marie, or you can follow our brick and mortar at Happy Whole You on Instagram as well.
Okay, well, this is really great. I know we could have easily talked for 6 hours, and maybe we will continue, but thank you very much for taking the time and being here. It looks like you really make a huge difference, for people, and that is always wonderful.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Thanks for joining me today. Click the subscribe button for more video. Got a question or comment? I love questions and comments. Leave yours below. And here's another video you've got to see.